Hey, I'm Brad, and this is The Race Show.
Hi, my name's Des, and welcome to The Race Show.
Hey, what's up guys? Luis Martinez here. I'm here with El Patron, Project Nova. Just wanted to give you guys an update on next year, the 2020 season. I'm here at Pottstown Street Cars. They're going to be doing all the body work on the car, and they're going to be doing the paint work as well and stuff like that. So make sure to watch the whole video, because at the end of this video we're going to do a render reveal on what the car is going to look like, and it looks freaking awesome. Okay, so Brad from Acetune is actually going to come on here next with me, and he's going to talk a little technical about the car. You know, towards the end of my last video, I talked about that we ruined a thrust bearing. He's going to talk more about, you know, the issues he had with the car, and you know, all the work that went into the end of this season to put the motor back together and things like that. So I just wanted to give a big thank you to all the sponsors that, you know, are coming back on board with me for the 2020 season. Garrett Turbochargers, CSF Radiators, Competitive Suspension, Tick Performance, and the Clean Garage. Thank you very much, guys.
All right, so in Lewis's car, we kind of had an uphill battle the whole way through. Basically, when we first started out on the dyno, it was making 1,000 rear wheel horsepower, and that was on 25 pounds of boost. As we upped the boost on it, I didn't really see any kind of large nominal gains like you would normally see. We started seeing some weird situations where it would come up in the boost and it would just hold an RPM and then run out through. It's a very tall tale sign of being a torque converter issue. That being said, you know, moving forward, Lewis wanted to go do some testing and kind of see if we were seeing a dyno issue, or, you know, if we were actually experiencing something with the torque converter. At that time, we weren't on the dyno here at Pottstown. We were on another dyno, a little bit smaller roller. We were using some load on it, but it still wasn't really doing what we were looking for. And we were kind of really chalking it up to being a converter, but we wanted to get some times in and see what we could do. What Lewis and I ended up doing is we went to ACO Raceway for him to get his NHRA license. If you're not familiar with the process of getting your NHRA license, it's pretty straightforward. Basically what you do, you go to the track, you tell them I'm here to do a license test, and you start out with doing some 60-foot runs. Everybody's a little bit different, but basically what they do is they have you go up, you do your runs up to the 60-foot, you shut down. Then you're going to go down to 8th mile, and then you're going to shut down, and then you're going to do a full quarter pull. Basically what they're looking for is whatever your time designation is, you need to be going faster than that for every run. So in Lewis's case, we needed to be running a 999 or better for each one of the runs we did. I set him up really just basic and simple. We went out on 20 pounds of boost. He launched about 4,000 RPMs, went down the track, and he actually ran to the 330, which was fine. They kind of gave him an open rein. They were like, hey, you seem like you're comfortable. You can go and just run 8th mile or whatever you're comfortable with doing. So he ran those 330s, and he did 2 runs back to back, and it was great. Next session out, we went and I upped the boost to 22 pounds, and he started running 8th mile. Still really good passes. We were seeing mid-9s when he was basically coasting over the end of the course. And everything seemed to, you know, be going pretty good. The last run session out, we went and I upped the boost to 25 pounds of boost. And at that moment, you know, I started kind of noticing for myself, standing there watching the car leave. He was actually picking the front tire up at this point, and I was seeing it kind of, what would you call it to be, snowmobiling, where it would come up in the RPM range and hold itself at a certain RPM. That RPM was about 6,500 RPM, so it was like almost clipping rev limiter. So he ran those runs out. First run was like a 898, the next one was a 885. With him, like you could see in the data through the AEM, the TPS was like all over the place. He was kind of just like pedaling through. So that brought us up to our topic of we had something going on with the converter. At that point, I had pulled the trans, checked everything out, and I noticed that we have a ton of thrust play, which Lewis touched base upon in his last video. With that thrust play that I saw, I decided it was a good idea to pull the oil pan. I wasn't noticing anything else weird going on. The oil looked clean changing it, all that kind of stuff. But I pulled the oil pan. The thrust bearing was trashed. On the LS's, it's number 3. It was trashed. It had actually what looked like it was ballooned, where it's pushing so hard on the back that the front of the bearing isn't the same thickness as the rear of the bearing because of the way it's pushed. So I ended up tearing the whole thing down. I took the crank down to R&W Enterprises in Coatesville and had them polish it up for us. They did a great job, and I was able to get it right back in and get us back running. We put all new bearings in. At the same time, he was talking with TIC Performance about a new camshaft. So in that process, what we ended up doing was we picked up a TIC Stage 3 version 2, which is directly made for a 347 to I think 427 cubic inch LS running a 5518R, which is the turbo that Lewis is running. So it's basically made exactly for his setup. From there, put the motor together, got everything running. We did some dyno testing, and on 25 pounds, I'm actually seeing 1,150 rear wheel horsepower and about 1,000 foot-pounds on 25 pounds of boost. I'm really happy with what we're seeing here for gains now. We also switched over to a 10-inch TSI converter. We were on an 8 3/4 TSI converter. As far as the transmission goes, everything seemed great with it otherwise, but the converter was just a misconception between Lewis and the trans builder when he originally built the car. Lewis had been working on this car for about 3 years before it came to me, and at that time he wasn't really planning on making more than about 700 to 800 horsepower. And the converter that he had would have been fine at that power level. So now we're on the 10-inch. We switched around, I did some testing with it at Maple Grove and made sure we kind of worked out all our little bugs that we were having, because we just had a bunch of like little stuff that was just happening here and there, and when you're making this kind of power, you're really pushing stuff further than it's made to be. So our final thing that we ended up doing is we did pick up a dump valve for on the Power Glide. Our plan is to be able to get the car where we can leave at 5,000 RPMs or even more if it comes down to it, if we have the right kind of track prep. And to be able to do that with a 10-inch converter, we need to be able to bleed off the converter pressure, and that's where the dump valve comes into play. So moving forward, we have a couple things that we're going to be doing over the winter here. One of the things obviously is what Lewis is talking about with the render reveal, and we are going to be just cleaning up some of the couple things that we want to just iron out in the car and get them, you know, so that we can really go out and be a killer next season.
So the guys at Pottstown Street Cars are going to be doing all the body work and paint. So you guys will see at the end of the video the rendering that we came up with, what the car is going to look like for the 2020 season. So I just wanted to thank all of you for tuning in, and we'll see you later on the next episode. And for all you grudge 1/8 mile guys, I'm coming for you.